Now, Zimbabwe recently introduced a new currency called the Zimbabwe Gold to replace inflation-ravaged bond notes. However, residents in Harare say they are struggling to access foreign currency through banks, forcing them to turn to the black market. Now, this is causing frustration as many doing transactions every day, saying that, okay, they want to pay for their rent, they want to pay for fuel, they do not have access to Forex. Why? Because, of course, the US dollar is overpriced and it's not even available. Now, we dive into this conversation looking at what the people are saying and how they are being affected, looking at the Forex market and the challenges they're faced with. At this point, Dr. Prosper Chitambara, Developmental Economist, joins me to talk more about this. Dr. Chitambara, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to look at it this way. Now, the banks are not meeting Forex demands. Local money changers are coming into the gap to fill that space. And residents are patronizing the parallel Forex market just to have access to the US dollar. Now, we now have a government who is clamping down on these money changers. A whole lot of challenges as regards Forex in Zimbabwe. Isn't it wrong in the first place for the government to move against the Bureau de Change, knowing fully well that we have a scarcity in place?
Yeah, so according to the laws, obviously, it's not allowed to be involved in foreign exchange trading except you are actually licensed by the central bank. So this clampdown by government is really to try to maybe stabilize the situation, although I'm not sure that it's going to be very effective. I think what it's going to do probably is just to drive these money changers further underground. We have a huge informal economy, one of the biggest informal economies actually on the African continent. So all those money changers are part and parcel of that huge informal economy.
So let's now look at what the ZiG, that is the Zimbabwe Gold, is meant to do. It has come into play, but then citizens are still complaining about Forex and the ZiG not actually living up to its performance. So why is it that we're not beginning to see a change in the legal tender, the economy, and the Forex market?
Yeah, no, my thinking is that change is going to take a bit of time to come. Because with this we've had these challenges for a long time, obviously. So a lot of people still have the trauma of losing value, losing incomes on account of the hyperinflation. So I think it's going to take a bit of time, and it's going to take the sustained implementation of a number of reforms to try to restore confidence. And once we're actually able to address the issue of high inflation, which is now estimated at about 57%. If we can get those numbers down to at least below 10%, I think that will be a critical benchmark and landmark in terms of the restoration of confidence in the ZiG. So I think what's needed right now is to ensure that we build the momentum in terms of implementing both fiscal and monetary reforms as a way of trying to bring down the high inflation numbers, and that should help in terms of restoration of confidence. The current inflation rate of 57%, I think that's too high, and obviously it means many people will not have confidence in dealing or in transacting or even storing value in the ZiG because of the massive erosion of real incomes by the high inflation.
Okay, so earlier on you said that it's going to take a lot of time before we begin to see change, but a lot of people have actually questioned the sincerity of government in these regards because we see the government offering services and requesting for the US dollars to be paid, of course, by the citizens to acquire the services, but when they want to pay salaries to their workers, they pay in ZiG. So when we have a high demand coming from governments now for the US dollars, where is the change going to come from? For how long are we going to continue to have this disparity?
I think it's important that we have a clear roadmap in terms of our de-dollarization. But my own thinking is that it must be a market-determined process that is actually based on the attainment of key benchmarks, including the reduction in the inflation rate. Of course, government has already said that in terms of the payment of taxes by companies, 50% is going to be paid in the local currency. And my view is that I think that's an important step But of course, with time, I think we should begin to see more and more government services, including even the fuel actually being sold in ZIG. But it must not be an abrupt process or a government decree process. I think it must be a market determined process that is actually based on the attainment of these important benchmarks or milestones, such as the reduction of inflation. So government must actually not decree de-dollarization, because if that happens, then I think that's going to erode even the little modicum of confidence within the economy. Of course, Zimbabwe, we have suffered fuel challenges in the past on account of distortions within the fuel sector pricing regime. So I think government is mindful of those potentialities. So I think that's why there's this understanding that we need a gradual approach, but that's actually based on a market process, and not necessarily for government to decree that every service is now being sold, or every good and service is now being sold in ZIG. So that could actually further unravel the market or the economy.
Okay, Dr. Chitambara, let's end this way. Now, the government has been advised to make the availability of foreign currency flexible for everyone, or rather, make it possible to get a certain number of US dollars from the bank monthly in exchange for the ZIG. So, can this work?
Well, I think I'm not sure that it will work, because the demand for foreign exchange I can't be met. The supply is not just is not enough to meet the rising demand for foreign exchange. And of course, part of that demand is also speculative, and part of it obviously is the need to store value. So I think it's going to be difficult to match the available supply of foreign exchange and the rising demand for that foreign exchange, which will actually mean that I think the black market will remain there, at least for the foreseeable future.
Okay. Dr. Prosper Chitambara, Developmental Economist, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And that's a wrap on today's edition of Business Edge. Do not forget that you can visit our social media handles at News Central TV, that is Central. And of course, visit our websites, www.newscentral.africa. And you can look at our mobile apps on Play Store and App Store, so that you can get more juicy details that we have on there. My name is Lekon Obanjo anyway. Until next time, enjoy your day.